Hi, so let's talk interview technique now. So hopefully I've convinced you of the importance of interviews. There's nothing like speech to really give a colour and character of person as well as knowledge, and it really helps make your writing stand out for the crowd, okay? And if you're a fiction writer, it helps your characters sound more realistic, and obviously if you're a journalist, you'll need to get quotes from people as part of your job. But really in anything, even if you're writing Instagram captions, it helps to have other people's voices in there sometimes as well. So interviews are great. I've talked about how you can find the right person to talk to. Now here's how you do it. So there's quite a lot of overlap with networking. There's even more overlap with working as a doctor, which is obviously what I did for the best part of 10 years. And we had a lot of training on that. And the number one tip that I will give you, so for most interviews, not everything, but for most, we're really not in a Jeremy Paxman, aggressive, hostile. We're not trying to trip people up most of the time. What we're trying to do is find out either facts from them or opinions from them that will help our audience, our readers, understand the topic that we're talking about. So one of the first things that you need to think about before you're talking to people in that kind of professional capacity is open and closed questions. So an open question is, how are you? Okay, it leaves it open for people to answer anything they like. Okay, it could be devastating, the worst day of their lives, or it could be fine, thanks, or it could be actually great because I've just heard this. Okay, whereas if you ask somebody, what's your name? That's a closed question. Okay, they've only got one name. If you say, do you like this? Yes or no? Again, closed. You've really limited the number of options for somebody can say. And so one really big tip, and this was drilled into us in medical school, is that after you've done your preliminaries, hello, is it okay if I talk to you for a few minutes and things, when you actually start trying to understand what's bothering somebody or what perspective they have to share, when you start the interview, you ask an open question and then you leave a long silence, okay? You don't interrupt them. And quite often, because we're talking about interviewing for writing, which is slightly different to interviewing for TV and video, people's first response isn't going to be brilliant. It's unless they're really savvy and professional and media trained, they're going to ramble quite a lot. But what is important is that they're going to feel comfortable with you and they want to be heard. Everybody wants to be heard. And when somebody starts talking and you interrupt them, it makes most people feel really quite disrespected. It doesn't make them feel heard. It doesn't make them want to cooperate. Okay, it makes them feel a bit boxed into a corner. So you will ask a question. So in medicine, it would be, how are you? What can I do for you today? How can I help? One of those sort of options. And sometimes people know exactly what they want. They say, I've got back pain. I'm worried it's cancer. Can you sort it out? Okay. Other times, and this is far more common, you're going to hear a really, really long rambling thing that doesn't quite make sense. It jumps back and forth in time. It includes details. People trail off in their sentences. And you can we would really encourage to let people speak for a full 2 minutes. That may not sound long, but it is actually when you're losing the thread of what's going on. And you let them talk until they stop. Okay, let people get whatever it is out of their system that they want to say. Now, depending upon the kind of interview that you're doing, for most of us, we're going to have to move on from our open questions with closed ones to try and pin down the details that we need. Okay, and if you're in a hostile interview situation, then you need to pin stuff down all the more. But that's not really what we're talking about in this lesson. So you let somebody talk first, and then I'll probably suggest another few open questions and then gently try and close it down, get a few more details. And towards the end of your interview, because again, we're doing this for writing, so people are often concerned they're going to be misquoted. So you can say, so would it be fair to think that? And then you give the summary of what you think they've told you, okay? Because it gives them a chance to set the record straight, okay? Because that's the point of it all. Have you understood what they meant? Or have you got a turn of phrase that they don't really like? Also, when it comes to recording videos, there's different ways of doing it. Obviously, these days it's really easy. Everybody's got a mobile phone that has audio recording, or you can just click on the video. You can get plug-in microphones that go even into your phone, so you don't even need a bigger kit than that. Or you can go all the way along to really top podcasts that you can do on the summit of Everest with the right kind of kit as well. Sometimes that puts people off though, and sometimes you don't have time for that, particularly if you're in a busy place or on the street, or particularly, I mean, obviously I work in travel where almost everything is snatched on the go. Then you can jot notes down. Most of us now jot things down on our phones, but one word of advice, there are still a lot of people in a lot of the world who consider that to be really rude. All right, if they see you tapping on your phone whilst they're talking to you, I don't know why, but they assume that you're bored and that you're texting somebody else. Okay, and they don't like it, and then they'll stop cooperating with you. Whereas if you have a pen and paper, it really reassures people. It makes you look professional. People are soothed when they see you writing something down. They feel encouraged. Whereas if you're doing it on your phone, the vast majority of people really don't like it. So depending on the kind of writing that you're doing and how difficult you're finding it to get interviews, I would really suggest just trying to take pen and paper with you. Again, this is kind of a tip from my medical days when I finally realised that people like seeing doctors with stethoscopes, okay? It makes them feel reassured. Their vision of a doctor is somebody with a stethoscope. So I just always have one around my neck, okay? Some clinics, stethoscopes are for listening to the chest and heart and bowel sounds. They're not for musculoskeletal examination. But I realised that my trauma clinic assessments, when I was looking at broken bones and how they were healing, things would go much better if I had a stethoscope on, okay? It reassured people. And if you've got pen and paper, it reassures people that you're a proper writer, you're a professional, you're taking it seriously. They can trust their words, their opinion with you, okay? Another sort of do's or don'ts for interviews, and yeah, it's when I see people fall into this trap all the time, and that is avoid the best or top question. So if I said to you all of a sudden, what's the best meal you've ever tasted? Unless you're primed to go, unless you're media trained, then you're going to clam up. The best? Or most people are. Maybe you won't, maybe you're different, but most people are. The best, well, was it this, but was it that? Will I insult my mother if I say this? But then there was that Christmas, oh, then do you remember that time when I was on holiday? But did I? And all while this is running through people's brains, they're not actually saying anything to you, okay? The natural give and take and back and forth of conversation's been halted. So what do you do instead? A good way instead is, what's your top 3 meals? Okay, the pressure's off. It helps people's brains work in different ways. They'll come up and you'll probably get the same answer anyway. You just won't have the angst around it. Okay, instead of the pressure of having to be one perfect thing, if people can have 3 or 5, then you're going to get the same kind of information anyway. So it happens a lot in travel, you know, what's the best place you've ever been? Well, but how can you decide that? People can't, okay? What's the best meal you cook at this restaurant? What's the best piece of art? Who's the most interesting person you've ever met? When you ask people on the spot, they struggle with it. So give them a bit of breathing space. Ask them. So instead of being totally open or totally closed, this is somewhere in the middle. And you say, which 5 people from history would you invite to your dinner party? Okay, it's a much more entertaining and interesting discussion than which one person would you go on a date with. Get details. So when I say details, when you're interviewing, at the start it's polite to check someone's name. At the end it's essential to check it and to show it written down, either on your phone or on your notepad, and show it to them. Can I just check? You can be lighthearted about it if you want, but is this how you spell your name? Because nothing annoys people more than reading stuff in print with their name wrong. Okay, the spelling, and then they'll get in touch with you or the magazine or the book or whatever else, or the institute, and you will look unprofessional, a bit of a tit. So always double check the name at the end. But you can also get other details that will really help to bring your writing to life, because this is different to TV. We're not going to get the colour and flavour that you get from the sound of someone's voice or the fact that I'm wearing a yellow jumper or something. So get those details right down to yourself. It's not always relevant, but sometimes it is. What someone's wearing. If they've got a pet, get the name of the dog. If they've got music playing in the background, note what that is. Okay, it helps to give character. And even when you are writing fiction, you are going to have to research a lot the characters who are not like you, basically. And these details will help your imagining the character you're trying to create come to life on the paper. So I would really really encourage you to do that. One last word on interviews before I head off on this segment. What if you're the person being interviewed? Okay, so if you're being interviewed, then consider this your media training. Have something you want to say and say it. Okay, now if you've ever seen any of the political programmes like Yes Minister, or Days Gone By, or In the Thick of It, or listened to some politicians or spokespeople, they can overdo this a little bit and it can get really annoying, and the person asking the questions never gets an answer because someone's just repeating the same statement they want to say. But actually, it's really useful to have it in mind. You don't have to be like a robot about it. But I was interviewed recently on Radio 4 and they were asking some complex questions and I was answering them, I hope. But I answered each one from the point of view of what my overall goal was, because you don't have much time and things get edited down. So have an idea of what you want to say, the idea that you want to stand for, and just have it at the forefront of your mind when you answer questions. And that avoids you going down a rabbit hole of talking about something that you didn't even really want to talk about. And then you get to the end of the interview and you think, God, well, I never mentioned the name of my blog, or I never said that I'm actually a really pro-environmental kind of person, or whatever else. So have ready what you want to say, and it's the same in an email interview, it's just you do have a bit more time to read it over. So have some key ideas of what to say, not a rote learned sentence, but key idea of what you want to say and say it. Okay. And like the final bit for hostile interviews is if you're stuck interviewing somebody who doesn't want to speak to you, okay, and you have to do it, this is typically things like journalism, holding politicians or police or figures of authority to account, then closed questions are the way forward, okay? And you're going to have to interrupt. I would still suggest giving people the open, kind treatment at first, but if they are refusing to engage with you and it is actually their job and it's your duty to hold them to account, then you're going to have to interrupt, you're going to have to use closed questions, but always keep it neutral, always, and pick up a fact of something that they've said, or a quote from somebody else, particularly their adversary, because they will feel that they have to reply to that. Again, it's a human thing to engage. So that is my quick but deeply powerful tip for you for interviewing all kinds of people. When you get to the end of the interview, hostile or not, then a really helpful tip is there anything you wish I'd asked? Okay, because then if someone has forgotten the main thing that they wanted to get across, then that's their chance to say it, because that's what you're really after, isn't it? You want to know what matters to the person that you're talking to. And so you can just come right to the end and say, what do you wish I'd asked? Is there anything else you want to say? And then, of course, obviously, thank people for their time. And yeah, that's it. So thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this has been useful. Any questions, let me know, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.